afternoon. Welcome to our conversation today. I'm Lisa Ruth, CEO of CTC International Group. I'm here with our Chief Security Officer, Nabil Erian. Today, Nabil, we're going to talk about duty of care. So thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
I want to talk, right, so duty of care. This is something we hear a lot. It's a terminology that has different meaning for different people. As a former Chief Security Officer in the private sector, what does duty of care mean?
Duty of care really is a legal term. However, in applying it, in a very simple way, it means doing the absolute, having the minimum standard practices in place so as to protect your employees, your company, your shareholders, and your stakeholders in general.
So how do you do that? That seems very simple, but in reality, I'm sure it's not quite that straightforward.
In reality, it's simple, and it's things that we would normally think of. However, we had the luxury in the past of saying that things fell in the nice-to-have category, and we didn't have to actually apply it. Today, and as the world is becoming a more dangerous place with things happening with terrorism and activism and all that kind of stuff, we have to be sure that we have these things in place. So it starts with understanding what can go wrong and guarding against it. So understanding the risks and mitigating the same so that these risks do not materialize, or you reduce the probability of these risks from materializing.
So first you're going to do something like a risk assessment.
Absolutely. Well, you start with a threat assessment,
okay,
and these threats, you see which ones would actually become risks because they fall in that category. And once you have those risks, then you understand the probability and the impact of the same. And then you address them in a mitigating plan so as to make sure they don't materialize or reduce the probability of them taking place.
When you're talking about this, though, are there a set of standards, or does it depend on each company?
Both. There are set standards that are acceptable by everyone, and then you would have some that would be specific to your own organization or your own environment. So yes, the quick answer for that is both, but it would take a closer look to determine. Sometimes the general standards are good and inclusive. Sometimes they're not, as other outside elements might impact your what you need to do.
Well, we at CTC obviously take each case as a unique case, even if we do apply those general standards. But can you talk about how we at CTC help security officers deal with duty of care?
Absolutely. First of all, I have to highlight, it's not only security officers, because this is not a security matter. However, it does apply to security. A lot of elements are in security. So understanding the environment that the organization or the client exists in, understanding the threats that are there and going through them, trying to identify the risks in there, and then looking at those risks and understanding which ones can be transferred so that we can deal with them, which ones we need to ignore, or if we have that luxury, and which ones do we need to mitigate. And of course, keeping in mind that there will be risks that we have to accept because we have no choice.
Right.
However, we look at these together with the client, and then we come up with the mitigation plan, help the client come up with a good mitigation plan to be implemented. But I have to say that having the standards and understanding the duty of care is one thing. Where CTC can also help the client is also in making sure that the measures are implemented.
What do you mean, whatever you came up with, that they're actually
exactly
implemented?
Because, or whatever the client believes should be implemented is in fact implemented, because this is where the exposure will come in. And so having standards that are not applied is actually worse than not having any standards at all, or at least equal to the same.
Makes sense to me. So thank you, Nabil, for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and we'll see you here next time.